Hello and welcome to the Flixist Movies and Review, where I do the hard work and I tell you all of our Flixist thoughts on the movies coming out this week. Today we're talking about Godzilla, King of Monsters and Rocketman. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Flixist Movie Reviews and Review. I am Nathan and I'm here to do the work for you. What does that mean? That's right. I go through, I read all of the reviews of our staff, and I give you their thoughts on the movies that came out this week. Today we're talking about two movies that are very different from each other. We're talking about a giant reptile and a giant music icon. Giant's about the only thing they have in common. We're talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and Rocketman. I'll start with the big one. I'll start with Godzilla. So Godzilla was reviewed by Sam. I'll give you a little plot summary before the movie. So the movie takes place right after Godzilla 2014 finishes. We see a family with Vera Farmiga and Kyle Chandler, and they just lost their son. Then it flashes forward 5 years, and they have their daughter, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who's awesome in this movie, and they're kind of split in their ways, and Vera Farmiga is taken in by a group of eco-terrorists who want to release all of the titans or monsters to basically perform population control and make the audiences, make the human beings of the planet pay for all that they've done. That's about the plot. That's about it. Then everything is cut loose. There are monsters galore, fights, all you can handle. And I'll get into Sam's review. Sam says right off the bat, we catch an eyeful of old Scary himself. That's Godzilla, as in response to the fans disappointed by the lack of Zilla in the 2014 movie. If nothing else, King of the Monsters lets you know right away what you're in for from the get-go. He is right. There is monsters fighting galore. It's basically a giant monster battle royal. It's intense. He took a lot of glee from it, from seeing all these monsters come on screen and slug it out. Sam was impressed with the special effects. He basically said it's 2 hours of colors and monsters and action set pieces galore. It's visually stunning. But, there's always a but at Flixist. He says, if you have ice cream for dinner every day, does it still taste like dessert? That's a good point. I see what he's going for. He says, by this, I mean to call out King of the Monsters for lacking, to be polite, a narrative component. Ooh, yeah, not much of a story. He says, yet for all the hardship that this family has endured, and for as much as that hardship motivates their actions in the movie, something about the minute or two of exposition we get in the opening, it just wasn't enough to make me really give a hoot about any of them, especially when it all ends up feeling so tired and so familiar. I completely understand what he's saying. The storyline wasn't really there, and to truly feel a monster movie and feel a giant action epic, you have to connect, you have to feel with the people, and you have to really want these people to survive and not get eaten by the group of monsters. He says King of Monsters, it manages to smash and stomp its way to an epic scale. Yet, nearly the entire time, I was utterly engaged by the film, coasting from one set piece to another, due largely to the lack of differentiation and solid pacing. It's exhausting. The dessert metaphor is it's so good. It's just constant. You don't have a moment to kind of sit back and kind of get the scope of the planet, really connect with the people, have heartfelt conversations. It's just a bunch of goofy people. And it goes on to say, when the egregious world-ending fumbles of characters feel this obvious and plainly stupid, the experience feels less like a story being told and more like words being smashed together to get us to the next fight. Yeah, and he says it might seem silly to lament Godzilla, King of the Monsters for failing to tell a good story. It's Godzilla. What do you expect, one might think? To some degree, the hours of pretty monsters making a mess of the world might just be what someone is looking for. You know, you turn off your brain and you zone out. But in a year where we've already had a handful of smart, engaging action spectacles that tell meaningful stories, and they develop characters worth caring about, and deliver knock-your-socks-off action, I'm feeling less forgiving than ever of the turn-your-brain-off argument. He might be as big as Mount Fuji, but the big, scaly knucklehead's got a brain the size of a pea. not bad. Pretty eloquent, pretty beautiful. I understand what he's saying. There's nothing better than a giant action movie that has an amazing storyline and great direction and just makes you really, really feel. One of my favorite movies from last year was Mission Impossible Fallout. And it was because of this, because the characters were so good. The story was so good. And the action set pieces only made it take off. It's incredible to what you can do with a really good story. But Godzilla just kind of comes up short. And he gives it 5.5. I got to get that right. I always mess it up. 5.5 out of 10. Not terrible. A little better than average. I think I agree wholeheartedly. All right. Let's mix it up. Let's go different. We are going with the Rocketman himself, the Elton John biopic, Rocketman. So this film was reviewed by Jesse. This film kind of follows Elton John from the 1950s to the 1980s as he comes from a child prodigy to one of the world's biggest superstars. It follows in a certain footsteps of a movie that came out last year, but Jesse starts his review by saying, hey, did you think Bohemian Rhapsody kind of sucked and wasn't authentic about the artist it was trying to portray? Good. Then this is done right. I'm in. I hated Bohemian Rhapsody. It was one of my least favorite movies of the past few years. It was infuriating. It felt like a made-for-television movie. It took such an incredible person and concept and music and just squandered it, except for the 20 minutes that was just basically a concert movie, which was the best thing. That's not a good thing whenever then they stop talking and just playing music. You actually enjoy a movie. But we're not talking about Bohemian Rhapsody. We're talking about Rocketman. Jesse says it seems fitting that for all of his larger-than-life music, Elton John's biopic Rocketman also feels larger than life in all the best ways. It's loud, brash, stylish, and is everything that Elton John is. It doesn't try to pretend it's something that it isn't or rearrange fundamental aspects about his life, yet that authenticity that it has, it also weakens the movie at times. So it wasn't perfect for Jesse, but he still loved it. He says the movie is less interested in the facts and more about the persona of Elton John. If you're looking for the Elton John story, you might want to look elsewhere. On one hand, I never felt like I learned more about the man after seeing this movie. But on the other hand, at least it doesn't misinterpret facts about him and confuse dates, events, or relationships all in an effort to make a biopic that isn't accurate. Yeah, that smells like Bohemian Rhapsody, but completely opposite. He loved Taron Egerton. Jesse said he was incredible. He says Egerton nails being Elton John in a performance that is truly Oscar-worthy. He brings so much natural charisma to the role and shows a wide spectrum of emotion, from being a shy and meek man to a larger-than-life superstar thrilled to be alive, to finally a depressed and suicidal man who feels no one can truly love him for who he is. Egerton plays all of these emotions in a believable way and doesn't have to act through any obviously fake prosthetic to do so, like those teeth. Plus, he actually sings his songs instead of being dubbed over Elton John, which allowed him to better inhabit the role. What a concept, Jesse says. He didn't love it all entirely. He did have a few remarks on what it could have done better. He says the movie slowly loses its way after the halfway mark. When the earlier moments were tight and focused when they showed a sober and in control Elton. But as soon as he begins to drink profusely and do all of the drugs known to man, it's really easy to get lost. The movie kind of rushes through these scenes and it leaves Elton, as well as the audience, in a daze with no idea what's really happening. But to conclude, he says, as a love letter to Sir Elton John, his music and his life, Rocketman gets the job done marvelously. It's exactly what a feel-good musical is, and he hopes that we get more movie musicals like this in the coming years. And he gives it 7.5 out of 10. A high remark here at Flixist, and honestly something that's going to make me want to see this movie. I love Elton John. I love his music. I love Taron Egerton. I'm excited to see what happens. To finish this up, we're going to talk about Aladdin. We didn't talk about it last week, so I'll give you a short little snippet. This was reviewed by Rick. I also saw this as well. Rick and I both enjoyed it very much. We had very low expectations going in. We weren't really sure about its necessity to the world, but we loved it for its original concepts. We loved it for its ode to Bollywood culture. Also, the parkour scenes are great. It's not perfect. It loses its way in a few scenes. It's not exactly something that needed to be made, but it's out there and it's fun. He gave it 6.5 out of 10. I would completely agree with that. It's great. There's something for everyone this weekend. So if you want to see monsters battle it out, you want to see some good music that'll make you sing in the theaters, you got two options there. So go see it. All right, this has been Flixist movie reviews and review. Check out the Flix list where I talk about the best 5 monster movies of the 2000s, and we will see you again next week. I'm Nathan, and this has been Flixist.